Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're tackling what might be the toughest challenge for any innovator: believing in your ideas, even when everyone else thinks you're nuts.
Oh, I've been there. It's like you can almost feel the eye rolls when you start talking about your big idea, right?
Exactly. And today, we're going to dissect a text about a kid who went through this exact thing, a young inventor named Ethan.
Oh, I love stories about young inventors. They always have that fresh perspective. So what's Ethan's deal? What's he cooking up?
Well, Ethan's not just tinkering with Legos. This kid is dreaming up solar-powered water purifiers. Talk about ambitious.
Wow, that's aiming high. But I bet not everyone was cheering him on right away.
You got it. He gets hit with a wave of doubt, even from his own dad, which is kind of heartbreaking.
That's rough. The parents want to be supportive, but sometimes that worry turns into don't get your hopes up kind of talk.
And it almost makes Ethan give up completely. He's ready to toss the whole inventor thing and just blend in. But then he meets this old guy, Walter, out in the woods.
Ooh, a mysterious mentor in the forest. I'm intrigued. Does Walter have all the answers?
Not exactly. He's more like a dose of tough love. He flat out tells Ethan people make fun of what they're scared of, and they're scared of stuff they don't understand.
Ooh, that's deep. So it's not that Ethan's idea is bad, it's just that it's so new, so different that it makes people uncomfortable.
Exactly. And Walter doesn't stop there. He gives Ethan this amazing piece of advice: build a shield against negativity.
A shield, that's a cool way to put it. So it's not about ignoring criticism altogether, but learning how to filter it, right?
You got it. It's about choosing which voices you let in and which ones you just let bounce off. But how do we actually do that? What does building a shield look like in real life?
Well, one thing that jumps out from Ethan's story is his focus on those small victories. He doesn't get bogged down by the massive goal of changing the world with his purifier. He starts small, fixing things around the neighborhood, just to prove to himself that he can solve problems.
I love that. It's like those small wins build up his confidence so he's ready to tackle the bigger challenges. And speaking of challenges, how does Ethan handle it when he presents his improved water purifier and people are still skeptical?
It's really interesting. He doesn't get defensive or try to argue them into seeing his way. He just calmly says, some people just take longer to catch up. It's like he understands that not everyone is going to be on board right away, and that's okay.
He's got his own timeline. He's not letting their doubts slow him down. That's such a powerful lesson for anyone trying to do something innovative, right? You can't let the speed of other people's understanding dictate your progress.
Absolutely. And you know what else Ethan shows us? Patience. Real change, especially if it's groundbreaking, takes time. He doesn't expect everyone to suddenly get it overnight.
And then, boom, we get to the climax at the town fair. Not only does a potential investor see the value in Ethan's invention, but even his skeptical classmates are like, whoa, okay, maybe he's onto something.
It's a classic underdog story. But it's more than just Ethan winning the day. It's proof that staying true to your vision pays off. He didn't dumb down his idea, he kept refining it until it spoke for itself.
But hold on, there's a twist. Ethan goes back to the wood, wants to celebrate with Walter, but the old man is gone, vanished. Poof.
Wait, what? So was Walter even real, or was he some kind of like a vision, a manifestation of Ethan's own determination?
That's the question, isn't it? And it's something for our listeners to ponder. Was Walter flesh and blood, or a symbol of that inner voice we all have that pushes us to be our best?
It's almost like we all have a Walter waiting to be discovered. That voice of wisdom, that source of encouragement that helps us unlock our potential.
And that's the core of Ethan's final realization. The true change wasn't just the water purifier, it was the change within himself.
He learned to think differently, trust his gut, and build that shield against doubt. He transformed himself into someone who is ready to change the world.
It's inspiring, right? But it also makes you think, how do we actually cultivate that kind of inner strength? It's easy to say believe in yourself, but what happens when those doubts keep creeping in?
It's a constant battle, isn't it? For me, one of the biggest takeaways from Ethan's story is the power of finding your tribe.
Your tribe.
Yeah, those people who get you, who support your crazy ideas, even when they don't totally get it yet. Like, think about the impact Walter had on Ethan. He wasn't just saying good job. He was a guide, someone who'd been there, he could show him the ropes.
Right, like that saying you can't do epic stuff with basic people. Ethan needed someone who could challenge him, push him further. What do you think would have happened if he hadn't met Walter in the woods?
Ooh, that's a good question. Would he have kept going? It really highlights how important mentors are, right? That one person can make all the difference.
Makes you realize we don't have to figure everything out alone. Having someone in your corner who truly believes in you, even when you're doubting yourself, that's huge.
Absolutely. But sometimes that support has to come from within, right? We have to cultivate that inner mentor, that voice of self-belief. Remember how Ethan started fixing things around his neighborhood? Those small wins were so important.
Yeah, it's like he was building a portfolio of success, one little victory at a time. And each one made him a little bit confident to tackle the next challenge.
Exactly. And you know what else that ties into? reframing how we think about failure. Instead of seeing setbacks as like the end of the world, what if we saw them as opportunities to learn and grow?
It's a mindset shift, for sure. Instead of getting stuck in I messed up, it's more like, okay, what can I learn from this? How can I do better next time?
Exactly. And remember, even the most successful innovators, the ones who seem like overnight successes, they had tons of setbacks along the way. What set them apart is that they learned from those mistakes. They kept trying. They adapted.
So for all those listeners out there working on their own impossible ideas, how do we actually do that? How do we start embracing failure as part of the process?
I'm a big fan of keeping a learning journal. You write down not just your successes, but also those times you tripped up and what you learned from it. It helps you spot patterns, see your strengths and weaknesses more clearly.
Makes those oops moments into valuable data, right? Data you can use to make a better plan next time.
Exactly. And speaking of helpful information, another thing we need to build resilience is positive input. Like, think about Walter's influence on Ethan. He was a source of encouragement, but also knowledge and experience.
He was like a walking encyclopedia of innovation wisdom. Makes you realize how important it is to find those mentors, those communities, even online resources that can give you guidance and inspiration.
Absolutely. And just like negativity can be contagious, so can positivity. When you're around people who believe in you, celebrate your wins, and help you through those losses, it creates an amazing upward spiral.
It's like building a support system for your dreams. Sometimes that can be as simple as a book that inspires you, or a podcast even, something that sparks those new ideas.
The key is to be proactive, right? Seek out those sources of inspiration, those reminders of why you started this journey in the first place.
So we've got finding mentors, reframing failure, surrounding ourselves with good vibes. But what about those naysayers, those folks who just love to rain on our parade? How do we deal with them?
That's where Walter's shield analogy really comes in handy. It's about developing that inner resilience, that ability to filter out the negativity and stay locked on your vision. It's not about ignoring criticisms completely. It's about choosing which voices to actually listen to.
It's like realizing that not every opinion is created equal, right? Some people are just projecting their own fears and insecurities. Their doubts are more about them than your actual ideas.
You got it. And sometimes building that shield means setting boundaries. It could be limiting your time with negative people or politely but firmly disagreeing with those who try to discourage you.
It's about protecting your creative energy, right? Creating that space mentally and emotionally where your ideas can flourish. But that sounds kind of hard. How do you actually set boundaries, especially with people you care about?
One thing that can help is visualizing that shield as a real thing, like a barrier that deflects negativity and only lets in good vibes.
Ooh, I like that. Like a mental force field that repels those negative vibes.
Exactly. And setting boundaries doesn't have to be a big dramatic thing. It could be as simple as politely excusing yourself from a conversation that's draining your energy, or choosing to do something that feeds your creativity instead.
It's about making your well-being a priority, creating an environment where your ideas can thrive. We've covered a lot, building resilience, finding mentors, even visualizing a shield. But there's one more piece to this, right? Self-belief. That deep down conviction that your ideas matter, even if no one else sees it yet.
And Ethan's story really nails that point, doesn't it? He didn't let other people's doubts define his worth. He trusted his gut, he kept refining his idea, and in the end, he proved everyone wrong.
And it's not just about proving people wrong, is it? Ethan's story shows us that thinking differently can actually make a real difference in the world. He didn't set out to be some big-shot inventor. He just wanted to solve a problem. And in doing that, he ended up inspiring others, even the ones who doubted him at first.
Yeah, that's the ripple effect of real innovation. It's not about ego, it's about creating something that helps people. Ethan's water purifier, that wasn't just a science project. It could actually change lives.
Especially in places where clean water is hard to come by, right? It makes you think, how many other impossible ideas are out there just waiting for someone to believe in them?
So many. And that brings up something really important. The responsibility we all have to encourage those Ethan types, those kids who see the world differently. Imagine if someone had shut Ethan down early on, told him to stop daydreaming and be more realistic.
We might have missed out on a game-changing invention. It's like that saying, every kid's an artist. The problem is staying an artist when you grow up. We need to make sure we're not crushing that creative spirit.
Absolutely. And it's not just about kids either. We all have that potential to think outside the box, no matter how old we are. But it takes guts. You got to be willing to get uncomfortable, challenge the way things are, and really believe in your own ideas.
So for our listeners who are feeling that spark, that what-if energy, where do they even start? How do you take a cool idea and actually make it real?
Well, Ethan's story gives us some clues. First off, He didn't wait for someone to give him permission or tell him it was a good idea. He just started tinkering, experimenting, learning as he went.
It's about getting out of your head and into the real world, right? Turning those ideas into actions, even if they're small steps at first.
Right. And as you go, find those people who can guide you. Not necessarily tell you exactly what to do, but help you ask the right questions. Like how Walter gave Ethan wisdom and a fresh perspective, mentors can help us see our blind spots and avoid those common mistakes.
And don't forget the power of community, too. Ethan had those moments of doubt, but he also had people who had his back, even when he didn't believe in himself. Having that support network, whether it's family, friends, or people who share your passion, that can make all the difference.
It's about belonging, feeling like you're part of something bigger. That can really fuel your fire and give you the courage to keep going, even when things get tough.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from all this?
I think it goes back to that idea of embracing the impossible. Don't let the limits of today define what's possible tomorrow. Ethan's story is proof that with a little bit of courage, a whole lot of resilience, and the willingness to think differently, we can all create amazing change in the world.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. We hope you're feeling inspired to unleash your own inner innovator and make those impossible dreams a reality.